All right, let's dive into a massive challenge that pretty much every company is wrestling with right now. How do you actually use AI in software development without completely shooting yourself in the foot? Today, we're exploring this through the lens of Jeremy Davies' work, and he has this brilliant term for what's going on. He calls it the Museum of Workflows.
You've probably heard this quote before. It might not even be real, but honestly, it doesn't matter. It perfectly captures this moment in time. It's all about the huge gap between just making something a little bit better versus inventing something brand new. And let's be real, a lot of the tech world is currently obsessed with building faster horses.
And that really puts us at a fork in the road, doesn't it? We can build a faster horse, polish our old processes, or we can really embrace the automobile, which is a whole new way of thinking. The horse feels safe, right? It feels familiar, but it totally misses the entire point of the AI revolution.
And that gets us right to the heart of the problem. So many big companies are trying to build that faster horse. They're taking these incredible, game-changing AI agents and trying to shove them inside software development processes that are literally decades old. It just doesn't work. It's like trying to strap a jet engine to a horse-drawn buggy.
Now get this, because it sounds completely backwards. You give a team of experts an amazing new tool, and they get slower? How is that even possible? Well, a recent study dug into this, and it turns out the AI wasn't the problem at all. The problem was that all the human processes around it, like old-school code reviews, were still in place, creating this massive new bottleneck.
There's actually a name for this kind of behavior. Davies calls it the lockdown reflex. And it's this deep corporate instinct. When you're faced with a miracle, the first thing you do is wrap it in red tape. You try to force yesterday's rules onto tomorrow's tools because, hey, it feels safe, it feels responsible. So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, you take the old development phases, design, code, test, and you literally create a separate AI skill for each one. You're basically telling the AI, hey, I want you to copy the exact manual process you were supposed to make obsolete. And even worse, you're hardwiring all of this to one specific vendor whose tools are changing every single week.
So, why on earth do companies do this? This quote nails it. When you constrain the AI, the output becomes more predictable. That makes managers and auditors feel all warm and fuzzy inside. But there's a huge hidden cost. You've just put a hard ceiling on innovation. You've basically traded a potential breakthrough for a report that just looks familiar.
So, how do we break out of this trap? The answer is we need a totally new way of thinking about this, a new mental model. We have to stop seeing AI as just an assistant doing old tasks and start thinking of it as a completely new kind of compiler.
I mean, really think about it. Do your engineers open up a C++ compiler and tell it how to optimize code or how to allocate registers? No way! Of course not. That's the vendor's job. All you do is give it clean source code and then you test the heck out of the output. We need to treat AI agents exactly the same way. We need to obsess over the quality of our inputs and the validation of their outputs, and stop micromanaging the messy stuff in the middle.
This gives us a powerful new term, the probabilistic compiler. Its entire purpose in life is to take our precisely engineered human intent, what we actually want the software to do, and turn it into verified, working, deployed code. Our job is no longer writing the code. Our job is defining the intent.
This chart shows the new division of labor perfectly. Your company owns the two edges. On the left, you have the input edge. That's where you define crystal clear specifications. On the right, you have the output edge. That's where you verify the final product. Everything in the middle, that autonomous platform, that's a black box owned by the vendor. It's their job to keep making it better and faster.
Okay, so if the middle is a black box, what does owning the edges really mean for us? It means all that critical work, governance, quality control, security. It all moves out of the middle of the process and gets pushed to the very beginning and the very end. On the output edge, this looks like a new 4-layer validation stack. You start with the cheap, fast, automated checks. Then you actually have another AI act as a critic to judge things like quality. Only then, for the riskiest changes, does a human actually need to get involved. And finally, you verify everything in the real world, in production. Let's make this a little more real. So L1, that's all your basic automated stuff, like security scans. L2 is where that second AI agent comes in to review the work. L3 is for that very selective human sign-off on the really important stuff. And L4 is where you get real-world proof with things like canary releases. See? Governance isn't gone. It's just been relocated and made a whole lot smarter.
Now, this is probably the most important part. This entire validation stack has to be completely independent of whatever AI tool is in the middle. You define the standards of quality, and then you can let any AI vendor on the planet compete to meet those standards. This is how you maintain control without getting locked into a single vendor.
So what happens next? Once you get this right, once you have this unbelievably powerful compiler at your fingertips, a totally new problem shows up. The bottleneck moves. It's no longer about how fast you can write code.
We all know about technical debt, right? That's the price you pay for writing messy code. Well, the new bottleneck is something called vision debt. This is the gap between what your organization could build with these tools and what it actually asks for. When building stuff becomes almost free, your ability to clearly imagine and specify what you want becomes the rarest and most valuable resource you have.
This chart really shows the scale of the change we're talking about. Before, maybe 80% of an engineer's time was just implementation, head-down coding. In this new world, that could drop to just 20%. And all of that other time? It has to shift to the edges, carefully crafting the intent and rigorously validating the output.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Your company's limit is no longer how many engineers you have. It's how clearly you can imagine your own products.
And this brings us right back to the people, to the engineers. This is a profound shift. The most valuable skill isn't writing the perfect line of code anymore. It's becoming an architect of intent and a conductor of this incredible new orchestra, shaping the inputs and judging the final performance. So we'll end with a question for you. The tools, these incredible probabilistic compilers, they're here, and they're getting exponentially better every single day. They are ready to build whatever you can dream up. The only question left is your vision clear enough to tell them what to do?